Kirsten Hege is an independent author, poet, and mental health advocate who's with us here. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Now, you've got a book that came out on the 28th of February called The Walls We Build, a collection of poetry and prose. So what is the main content of the book?
Yeah, so it's a collection of poetry and prose, and I say that because my particular style of writing poetry is known as like stream writing. So I just kind of mind dump, if that makes sense. I just mind dump. And then, so some of the ones that are like poems, they're going to be the ones that are more, like I've gone back and tinkered with them more. And then a lot of the more prose pieces are the ones that are just, just raw words on the page. And, yeah, and that just leads me to like the whole concept of the book. Every single one of these poems was written individually and like with no intent for publication. Like there are some poems in here that I wrote before I even shared any of my work with anybody. I did not I didn't start telling people that I even like wrote ever, like as a creative outlet until 2019. I was 21. And I had just met someone else who writes. I went to a really small school where I don't know another person from that area who was into this kind of stuff. So I just kind of did it for myself. And it's been a lot, like everything that I do has an underlying message of mental health. So that's kind of where my love for writing in general started, was just kind of like a diary. So this is just kind of what it is. I decided over the last summer that I was ready to start publishing my work. I've shared it on social media for a little while at that point, and I just wanted to do something with it. And I planned on writing something entirely new, but I just went back, a lot of writers will be able to relate to this. I just went into the notes app in my phone and read all of the individual poems. And I realized like, I already have something here that I think could add value to the poetry community. And, so none of it was written to go together. And the whole point then is that it just kind of represents life when you struggle with mental illness. So I'm very open. I have ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which will probably be clear to some of your listeners. So I have ADHD, and then with that comes depression and anxiety. And I actually didn't know I had ADHD until a little under a year ago. And that's opened a lot of channels, and also is what allowed me to write and to publish a book. So it's just, one page will be a day that I was feeling good, back when I first met my partner now, who's now my partner of over 3 years. Some of them are, falling in love. And then 2 pages later is one of my worst mental health days ever. So it's just kind of a representation of, to use the walls we build. On really good days, we can look around and feel like everything is great. But when you do have mental illness, I like to say, like, as a whole metaphor, there's cracks in that foundation. And those cracks will make it a lot easier for things to kind of fall apart on a bad day. So that's just kind of what it represents. It's like the good days and then the bad days. I just wanted it to be completely real and authentic. So
and when a lot of it is a mind dump, is it hard to make it cohesive and sort of make sense?
I struggle with that a little bit with this book. I almost just kind of nixed it because, like I said, they were all written individually. So when I first was thinking about this, I was like, they don't really tie together, like it is mind dumping. Sometimes it's just like something at a stoplight that I was thinking about, that I wrote about, that reminded me of the feeling. And so I could have, my original idea was to try to find a way to organize them, like, by theme, but I think that the message might come across, like, I thought it might have come across a little bit better if I just kind of put it as it is and let it represent what it does, because, although it's mind dumping, it is intentional mind dumping. So I'll try to use metaphor or look for inspiration. A lot of the times it's just looking around a room and, either forcing something to come from that or just having something spark something.
Yeah. And I don't want to put you on the spot here, but would you be able to read one of the poems for us from The Walls We Build?
Yeah. I mean, I was hoping to get the opportunity. I'm going to preface it just by saying I've actually never done, and there are plans in the works for this, but I've actually never done live poetry reading or spoken word of my writing at all. But I have a request. Can I share two? They're small.
Okay, yeah,
because
sure.
they go together.
Yeah.
So it's important because it's the first poem in this book and it's the last poem on the last page that's going to represent the next book. So the first one is Rose Garden Swimming. It is a very classic stream writing poem for me.
Yeah.
And it goes, waves crashing all around, roses growing in her chest, thorns poking through her skin. Her hair turns to vines. She's drawn into the earth. Foamy water from crashing waves surrounds her, swirling. She floats away, twisting and turning as the vines slowly wrap themselves around her throat. And then I'm going to go right to the next one, which is going to be in the next book, Rose Garden Swimming Part 2. The same roses that wrapped themselves around her throat and dragged her into the sea worked her to tear away from the ocean of misery. She felt the thorns as they pulled, and she believed the lies they spoke. They said the dragging was painful and bad, but when she was pulled into the sand and she sunk into the earth, she fell into a beacon of light, and she asked, "Is this heaven?" And they said, "No, this is growth."
Wow. And that one's from the next book, right? Which is out on the 4th of July.
Yep, it's out on the 4th of July. And it's, these books are 1000% going to be in tandem. So They are a pair for sure.
Yeah. What can we expect from that book? Is it pretty similar?
So yes and no. It's, when I looked back at all of this, like I said, this was individually written. It was never made to be published. It was just kind of like what I was writing. And I saw like a lot of negativity and, of course there's a lot of negativity and a lot of really low moments with, when you struggle with mental health, but it's not just that. And I don't want to I don't think that there's a purpose in just sharing negativity with the world just for the sake of doing so. If I'm going to have my woes, I'll keep them in my diary and Instagram, there's no point in just, placing them elsewhere without any, I don't see a point in doing it without trying to help, trying to show that, it can get better. So The Walls We Build is this first book. The next book is The Ways We Fortify. Obviously it's very on the nose, but the tie into The Walls We Build is just that while those walls that we build can have cracks in the foundation, there are ways that we can fortify them. And that's like a mental health journey, changing your self-talk and creating an environment where you can heal, going to therapy, finding and doing things that you love and just getting through it. So The Ways We Fortify is very different and very similar in that it's going to directly address the walls we build, but it's also intentionally being written as a way for me to share the ways that I've been able to thrive anyway. And hopefully share some of those tips too for other people and give advice.
And after that book, do you have plans for even more?
Oh yeah. There's so many hats that I would like to wear in my life. These two poetry collections are very likely going to be the only poetry collections that I do release, but I wanted to start off my career with something that's me. But I really, really love to write, and my next goal as for publication is a thriller novel, hopefully by the end of 2023. That's the dream for that one, and it's going to be very different. But I do have Streamwrite Publishing company is a company I founded to publish these two books on my own, and then now this next one, and that's going to be in the meantime. My passion project is writing this next book and then using Streamwrite Publishing company to help other people bring their own work out there without having to, sacrifice some of their time or creative energy that they would with the traditional publishing process. Yeah.
Well, where can we check out The Walls We Build and, of course, The Ways We Fortify when that comes out?
So everything right now is through Amazon, but you can get to it from our publication website. So that's www.streamwritepublishing.com. And Streamwrite Publishing, there you can read our blog where we talk about a lot of this stuff. I have the concept for The Walls We Build up there. I also have some teasers for this thriller novel that's coming out. And then there will be direct links to be able to buy The Walls We Build, either Kindle ebook or paperback copy. And pre-order the Kindle ebook of The Ways We Fortify.
Great. Well, many thanks for joining us today on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been great.